being an entrepreneur, male or female, I think in any part of the world is always a challenge, right? You have an idea, you believe in it so much, and even though others might not see it, you put it out there every day and try to get people to back you. You push, and you risk everything. You risk self-respect, you risk your reputation, you risk money, you risk your time, and most importantly, you risk your heart and soul. Because every day, you're putting yourself out there. Most people only see the final end of that success. People see the name, the money, the fame that people get out of becoming a multi-billionaire. But people don't often see what happens behind the scenes. Because for that every one success, there are usually thousands of failure entrepreneurial journeys. But every journey has been a very emotional one and probably a very painful journey at best. For a woman, and for a woman entrepreneur in a patriarchal society like India, this journey is actually multifold. It's a completely different ballgame. And the question is really, why is that? Because women usually face multiple challenges. And the question is, let's understand as to what the reason for that is. And I'm going to share with you 5 short stories out of my own personal experiences as to the kind of challenges that I faced. So first question, I remember when I was maybe about 10 years old and I was in school. And I was playing in the gym with a few guys from my class. And there were 2 guys and me, and we got roughed up, we were having a great time, we fell a few times, got a few scars, came back to the headmistress, and she was patching us up. And she patches up the 2 boys, and then, with a lot of care and tenderness, and then says, okay, now you guys are good to go, you go play. And then she looks at me, and she patches me up, and she says, okay, beta, enough playing now, why don't you go read a book in the library, and I don't want you to get hurt anymore. Second story, fast forward a few years. I was 21, I had just come back from the US after my education, and I decided to start building my business. And everywhere I went, I was very proud of what I was doing. I was trying to revolutionize pathology. I was trying to build a chain of path labs that didn't exist in India, which was standardized, branded, stood for global quality, global practices. And every time I would meet my male friends, or I would meet uncles and aunts, and I would try to tell them about what I was doing, very proudly, they'd say, that's okay, all that's fine, but tell us something. You're so pretty, why do you want to work? Why don't you find yourself a nice guy who's going to come and take care of you? Fast forward, a few years later. I remember I had worked really hard, and I'd worked on one acquisition. And when I say acquisition, this was an existing pathology laboratory. A partner who was 60 years old, this gentleman was a doctor, he had built his own path lab over 40 years, and his daughter was my age. And I had talked to him and said, look, it makes more sense for you to partner with me and we can build something much larger. By this time, we had about 10, 15 centers. We had a couple of 100 employees. We were, in few cities in India. And he had agreed. It had taken a lot out of me for him to sit across the table, even though I was a woman, even though I was 40 years his junior, and sit across and have a conversation and say, okay, I'll partner with you. But at the end of it, he looked at me and he said, Ameera, all this is fine, but you're about 25 now. And very soon, I'm assuming you're going to get married, it's high time. And when you get married, maybe your husband's not going to like this business you're doing, and maybe he wants you to work with him. So if I partner with you, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to happen to this business? Is it going to shut down? Story number 4. Few years later, business was growing, was doing very well. 4 or 5 years later, I was looking for funding. I said, okay, now we're in a couple of countries. We've got, 1,000 employees. We need funding to grow even more. And I was talking to the premier private equity guys in India and global funds. And they believed in me, they believed in my story, they thought you guys are doing great, India, great growth potential, lots that can be done. At the end of it, they come to me and say, fantastic, we want to invest. But tell me something, in a couple of years when you have babies, how are you going to run this business? I'm assuming you're going to quit. And then what? And the last story. This was actually quite recent. So, I've done a few partnerships in few international locations. And one of my partners, and I won't mention the location, is a 70-year-old man who I was sitting and having dinner with. And, these are leaders of large conglomerates in different countries. I'm sitting and having dinner with at about 10 o'clock at night, and we're planning as to, how we're going to grow this business. And he tells me at the end of dinner, he very, very kindly offered to give me all kinds of assistance at 3 o'clock in the morning in my bedroom. And the other partner, who I was stuck with in a joint venture, and was having a tug of war with, and I was finally on the better end of the negotiation stick, and I was in a better situation, got so annoyed at being outsmarted by a woman that finally took everything in his power to say, I'm going to block you in this JV. The question we've got to ask is there a pattern? And are there things which is a common thread between all these different stories? And why does this really happen? So women entrepreneurs in India specifically are faced with two challenges. One is a conditioned lack of self-belief. Literally, you're trained from a very early age to think that you're not really capable to do much in life. And the best case situation for you is to find a great husband, get married, have children, and you're done for. And if that happens for you, you're lucky. And the second is an ecosystem that actually promotes the lack of self-belief. And this is unfortunately unintentional, but it's very systematic. So I figured out there were three things happening. So from the time you're a young girl and you're growing up, love equals to protection in the family. Oh, I love you so much, I want to take care of you. This is what your father will tell you at every stage of your life. Everybody will tell you, but we want you to be fine. Your brother will come to take care of you. We want you to be protected. We don't want you to get hurt. We don't want you to take any risk. Tomorrow, how can you go alone anywhere? What if something happens to you? So this constant protection, this constant no availing of risk, constant no uncertainty, puts women in a position where you're actually never taking decisions. You're actually never learning how to deal with risk and uncertainty. And you're always in a place in life where somebody's taking care of you. The second question, and the famous one which always comes, is how will you manage? And this question is, how can you travel on your own? Or what will happen if tomorrow there are men who are trying to make a pass at you when you're at work? Or how will you, deal with employees? Or how will you sign an agreement? And the subtone of all this, how will you manage, is you can't manage. It's again and again told to you that, it's not going to be possible for you, so don't even try. There's no point. And the third, what you realize over time is in India, women are always the object of beauty. Unfortunately, not an object of intelligence. Where you're always a woman who's pretty or a woman who's attractive, almost feels, even if she is not from a very great family in terms of wealth or in terms of income, she knows she's going to be taken care of because the likelihood is she's going to find a husband who wants to be with her because she's pretty and therefore she's set for life, right? But if you're intelligent, that's not necessarily guaranteed for you. So when you take these different patterns in India and you question, how do you really then deal with the situation? And while the ecosystem is obviously going to take much longer to change, and it's not going to be very quickly, the only thing that we really can change in life is ourselves. And I think that's where the process of self-discovery comes in. And I think if, for an Indian woman, the process of self-discovery to find out who she really is, what she's really capable of, and what's the best that she can really be, is the most important. Because you're so conditioned to say you can't, that you actually need to put yourself out of your comfort zone, put yourself in new experiences at the risk of failure, keep trying, try and find facets of yourself that you didn't even know existed, so you can recondition yourself from these new experiences and try to be somebody different from what you were meant to be. From the time we're born, this confidence has been systematically, unintentionally, but systematically destroyed. For me, the journey of boosting self-confidence has really been one that's taken years, right? And I think it's a process for everybody. So finally, the success actually came before the confidence. And for me, a lot of it came from my own entrepreneurial journey. It was the chance of saying, I have to actually go out there. I have to win confidence. I have to have small successes. I have to get people to back me. I have to make sure that there are people believing in me. And every day, I've got to confront my darkest fears, my most innermost vulnerabilities, and figure out as to who I really am and what are the things that I'm most scared of, and then actually go and do exactly those things. Because that's the only way to actually confront the risk, to confront the fear, and then be able to overcome it. I think all of us have these thoughts, right? Can I? Will I be able to? Am I aiming too high and high? Am I going to, fall flat on my face? And the most scary one, am I going to be a failure? And when those questions come up, really, we constantly think, how do we get over this? How you deal with these and how you deal with these reactions and situations in life, I think will tell you finally, nakedly, who you really are. And like I said, what you can be. And finally, what we have the potential to gain out of all of this is really the one thing which is the biggest asset, which is confidence. which I think unfortunately in India, where we are playing on a gender inequality game and not even an equal opportunity game, this is the only real asset that I think Indian women can actually hold on to. Because it's not jewelry like we've been trained to believe that's going to be our partner for the rest of our lives, but it's going to be this one asset that we can actually hold on to. For me, my journey has been a really incredible one. I started at a very young age of 20. I'm 36 now. It's been about 15 years of building my business and gone from having one center to about 800 centers across 7 countries. And more than anything, I feel like I've made a difference. I've made a change. I've helped provide better quality healthcare, made it more affordable, made it more accessible. But at the end of the day, if I see my entire journey and I put aside whatever success and whatever magazines and all of that, and I think about what's been the biggest benefit for me, and that's been the confidence that I'm talking about, and the confidence to stand here today in front of you, and the confidence that I genuinely hope we can impart and we can help build for all the daughters and our granddaughters and great-granddaughters in India. Because truly, I think each one of the women here has so much potential to be so much more, but unfortunately just lack the platform to. And that I hope will be the next purpose of my life, to help. Thank you so much.